Stop right there. Before you start your car in 2026, you need to hear this. California just dropped 15 new DMV laws, and 3 of them could get your license suspended before summer. I'm talking $1,000 fines, extended probation, and criminal charges for things you probably do every single day. One involves your license plate, another targets school zones, and the third? Most drivers have no idea they're breaking it right now. I'm about to break down every single change that affects you, and trust me, you cannot afford to skip this. Alright, let's get into it. 2026 isn't just another year on California roads. It's a complete reset of how the DMV operates, how drivers are held accountable, and what happens when you mess up. Some of these laws are about safety, others are about your wallet, and a few, they're about making sure nobody slips through the cracks anymore. Let's start with the one that's going to hit hardest for anyone who's ever made a serious mistake behind the wheel. DUI laws just got significantly tougher. If you or someone you know has dealt with a DUI, listen carefully. California is extending the ignition interlock device program all the way through 2033. That's right, 2033. For those who don't know, an ignition interlock device is essentially a breathalyzer wired into your car's ignition system. Before you can start the engine, you blow into it. If it detects alcohol, your car stays off. This isn't new technology, but what is new is how long the state is committing to this program. The message is crystal clear. Repeat offenses will not be tolerated, and the state is willing to invest in long-term prevention. If you're on this program, you're going to be on it for a while. But it gets more serious. If impaired driving results in someone's death, we're now talking about vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. And the penalties just jumped. Probation used to max out at 2 years. Now, it can stretch from 3 to 5 years. That's more than double in some cases. California isn't playing around anymore. The courts have more discretion, the consequences are steeper, and the margin for error is gone. If you drink and drive, the state is making sure you remember it for years. School zones. The 20 miles per hour. Rule you need to memorize. Here's one that sounds simple but is going to catch a lot of people off guard. Starting in 2031, school zone speed limits are dropping from 25 miles per hour down to 20. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's 5 years away. Why should I care now? Here's why. First, this change is already being added to DMV written tests. If you're studying for your permit or license renewal, you need to know this. Second, enforcement is going to ramp up gradually, and you do not want to be the person who gets ticketed going 25 in a school zone because you didn't get the memo. The reasoning behind this is solid. Studies show that even small reductions in speed near schools lead to significantly fewer serious injuries when accidents do happen. Kids are unpredictable. They dart into streets. They don't always look both ways. And drivers who are used to going 25 might not realize how much harder it is to stop at that speed versus 20. So get ahead of this. Slow down near schools now. Make it a habit. Because when 2031 rolls around, law enforcement is going to be watching those zones like hawks. The move-over law just expanded. And it's expensive. You've probably heard of the move-over law before. When you see emergency vehicles on the side of the road with lights flashing, you're supposed to change lanes or slow down. That's been in place for years. But here's what changed in 2026. Now it applies to any stationary vehicle with hazard lights on. Not just cops, not just ambulances. Any car. Broken down sedan on the shoulder? Slow down or move over. Delivery truck with flashers on? Same rule. Oh, why the change? Because tow truck drivers, roadside assistance workers, and everyday people dealing with flat tires were getting hit at alarming rates. The old law protected first responders but left everyone else vulnerable. Now, if you blow past a stopped vehicle without adjusting your speed or lane position, you're breaking the law. And the fines? They're not cheap. We're talking hundreds of dollars for a first offense. And it can go up from there if there's an accident or injury involved. So, if you see hazards, react. It's that simple. Red light cameras are back, but with a twist. Automated traffic enforcement is making a comeback in California, and cities are being given the green light to install updated red light camera systems. But there's an important detail here that could save you some stress. These violations are civil only. That means no points on your driving record. Your insurance rates won't automatically spike. But here's the catch. The fines can still be brutal. We're talking $400 to $500 per violation in some cities. And if you run multiple red lights, those fines stack up fast. So while you might avoid points, you're not avoiding financial pain. The lesson here is simple. Yellow lights matter more than ever. If you see yellow, you better be slamming on those brakes unless you're already in the intersection. Because trying to make it through a stale yellow is now a gamble that could cost you $500. License plate tricks will cost you $1,000. Let's talk about license plates. Specifically, those little gadgets and tricks people use to hide, flip, or obscure their plates to avoid tolls or traffic cameras. California is done with it. As of 2026, using any device that blocks, flips, or interferes with license plate visibility can result in fines up to $1,000. That includes those fancy flipper frames, covers with tinted plastic, spray coatings that mess with camera clarity, all of it. The state has made it very clear. If you're driving on California roads, your plate needs to be visible and readable at all times. Period. No exceptions. And if you get caught trying to game the system, you're going to pay for it. Abandoned RVS. A local change with big implications. This one is specific to Los Angeles and Alameda counties, but it's worth knowing if you live or drive in those areas. Local authorities now have the power to remove abandoned or inoperable RVs valued at $4,000 or less. This law runs through 2030. The goal here is twofold: improve public safety and keep streets cleaner. Abandoned RVs often become hazards. They block visibility, create sanitation issues, and sometimes become locations for illegal activity. By giving local governments the authority to remove them, California is trying to clean up problem areas without overstepping on private property rights for higher value vehicles. If you own an RV, make sure it's registered, operable, and not parked illegally for extended periods. Otherwise, it could be towed and you'll be on the hook for storage and retrieval fees. Self-driving cars get special lights. Autonomous vehicles are becoming more common, and California is adapting. Starting in 2026, self-driving cars can now use special marker lights to indicate when the vehicle is in autonomous mode, meaning no human is actively controlling it. This is actually a smart move. It gives pedestrians, cyclists, and other drivers visual cues about what to expect. If you see those marker lights, you know the car is operating on AI, and you can adjust your behavior accordingly. It also helps law enforcement identify autonomous vehicles in case of accidents or violations. Electric off-road motorcycles? New classification. If you ride an electric off-road motorcycle, you've got a new classification to deal with. These bikes are now officially categorized as off-highway vehicles, which means you'll need a DMV-issued plate or placard to ride legally. This change is about tracking and regulation. As electric off-road bikes become more popular, the state wants to make sure they're registered, accounted for, and that riders are following the same rules as other off-highway vehicles. If you're riding without proper documentation, you're now subject to fines and potential impoundment. The CARS Act, a game changer for car buyers. Here's a big one, and it's going to make buying a car a lot less stressful. Starting in October 2026, the CARS Act goes into effect. This law requires dealerships to clearly disclose the total vehicle price and all financing terms up front for vehicles priced under $50,000. No more hidden fees. No more surprise add-ons. No more dealerships burying costs in fine print. Everything has to be transparent from the start. But here's the kicker. Buyers now have a 3-day right to cancel. That means if you sign the papers, drive off the lot, and realize you made a mistake, you have 72 hours to undo the deal. This is huge for consumer protection. It takes the pressure off, reduces buyer's remorse, and forces dealerships to be honest and upfront. If you're planning to buy a car in late 2026, wait until October if you can. This law is going to change the game. DMV updates that actually help you. Not every new law is a restriction or a fine. Some changes are genuinely helpful. For example, if you move within California, you can now request a duplicate driver's license just to update your address without unnecessary paperwork or waiting periods. It's a small change, but it makes life easier. And here's another win. Cities can now reduce or waive parking ticket fines and offer payment plans for people who genuinely can't afford to pay right away. This prevents small tickets from snowballing into license suspensions or debt collection nightmares.